Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. There is no new business tonight, so we'll move along to item 7. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent calendar?
This is Director Miller. I will move to accept the consent calendar.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorsable. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Item 7A, Finance Committee. Director Donato, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. The Finance Committee met last Thursday, had a presentation from the fiscal year July 1st, 21 through 30th, 22 by Thomas Young, Brown Armstrong CPAs. And I believe they're going to give us a presentation tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Director Donato. This is Matt. So I'll introduce Thomas Brown. He is a CPA with Brown Armstrong. They're the audit firm that has conducted the audit for the agency for this will be the 3rd year of their firm performing the audit. As Director Donato mentioned, this was presented to the Finance Committee back on October 20th. And we're here tonight with Thomas Young to give a preview or a review of the financial audit for the agency. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Thomas.
Yes, thank you. Hopefully you guys had a chance to review your financial statements. These financial statements were prepared by your management. They worked diligently and put a lot of effort into it. And our job as independent auditors are to come in, perform various tests. We look at your internal controls. We'll test your internal controls. We'll obtain third-party confirmations of your cash and investments. We'll obtain confirmations of your accounts receivable. We'll obtain confirmations from your legal counsel. We do all this work in order to issue an opinion. And on page 1, I'm pleased to announce that we issued what is considered an unmodified or clean opinion. That is the highest form of assurance that we can render as independent auditors. So what that basically means...
Hold on 1 second, Thomas. We've got a question from Director Lane.
Just a clarification, you said who performed the audit? Was it you or your company?
Correct.
I heard something about, I thought I heard something else.
Yeah.
No, the financial statements were prepared by your management. These are the management team's financial statements. So they are what your team put together. Our job as independent auditors is to render an opinion. And so that opinion, we have issued what is considered an unqualified or unmodified opinion. That is the highest form of assurance that we can render. In addition to that report, there's also
That answers the question. Thank you.
We've also issued the final or a report on your internal controls. Again, it was a clean opinion, no issues. So with that, I'd open up to any questions. Everything looked good.
Are there any questions for our auditor? Hearing none, thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I would like to comment. Teresa did a good job working with the auditor. I mean, it was a very extensive report, very detailed report, and I thought the Finance Committee, I believe we want to approve the audit has been presented in front of you. So I'll move on 8A1 that we approve the audit.
Actually, if I could interrupt Director Nanao, the 8A1 was just the presentation, and then 8A2 is where we accept and file the audit.
I'm sorry, I meant 8, okay. 8A2.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorsable. I'll second.
Are there any more questions or discussion? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Terrace,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes,
Mike Dias.
Yes, the measure passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
okay, that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Thank you very much. We'll move along to item 7B, High Desert Water Bank Committee. Again, Director Donato, do you have a report?
Yes, we met on this as well. This was 8B1, and consider impossible action on change orders, number 1 for installation of the DWR required fiber optic cable project, High Desert Water Bank, Boyce Construction for $541,336. High Desert Water Bank capital budget funded by Metropolitan Water District, and our engineer will give us an update.
Yeah, thank you, Director Donato. The High Desert Water Bank Committee met last week, and our construction manager, Tian Ing, I believe is on the line tonight with Kennedy Jenks. He's going to walk the board through the process of how this came about, the negotiations that the construction management team had with the contractor, and the recommendation from the High Desert Water Bank Committee. As it notes on the agenda, these were items all provided or required by the Department of Water Resources to complete construction of the turnout for the High Desert Water Bank project. We've got a few slides, and I will turn it over at this point to Tian Ing to provide this report.
Thank you, Justin, and good evening, directors and team members. Yes, this is the Aqueduct Turnout Turn-In project, change order number 1. It's required by DWR. There are 3 components, and let me walk through it with you folks tonight. The first component being fiber optics communication cable. Need to construct a new one. DWR changed their mind. We cannot tap into the existing copper communication cable, which is located 100 feet from the project site. And we have to construct a new one, starting from the project new control building to the DWR control building, which is about 7,000 feet away. So that first component. Second component is prior to cutting into the existing aqueduct concrete liner, DWR requests that we take asbestos sampling on the concrete itself, the liner concrete. So that's item number 2. Item number 3, for the 84-inch welded steel pipeline that are connecting the aqueduct turnout turn-in structures, the valve vault structures, and subsequently to the remaining of the project site. The portion that within the DWR right away, they require additional low-strength concrete encasement on top of the pipe. So that is item number 3. So upon hearing all that, we met with the construction contractor and issue a request for them to give us a cost proposal and see how this 3 item will cost. And at the same time, the program management team and Avek also informed Metropolitan Water District that there's a change on this project and it's a requirement by DWR. So I wanted to spend the next few slides to go through each of the scope and details with you, and subsequently explain to the group tonight how we come up with the cost proposal. So next slide, please. I believe the next slide, Justin, it's showing the fiber layout.
Yeah, it looks like that one got missed in here.
Okay, that's okay. I can verbalize. No, that's okay. So the fiber layout, it's starting with the project with the aqueduct turn-in structure, which is near 290th Street West, and then we have to run it along parallel to the canal, going southeast past 280th Street West, and subsequently connecting it to an existing DWR control structures. So along that stretch there is 7,000 feet from the control building all the way to the DWR structures. And on top of that, we can't just lay the fiber conduit bare ground. It has to be inside a 2-inch conduit. It has to have a 8 to 10 inches of low strength concrete cover and dye in red, which signal if this is electrical or communication cable. And it has to have a minimum 24 inches of compacted earthen dirt material. Compaction means 95%, which is equivalent to most foundation of a hydraulic structures. So there's a lot of requirement to do there. So once we issue the cost proposal to the Blois Constructions, and they have a few questions, we talk with them back and forth a little bit, and then they submitted an initial cost. So we have this on this slide here, we have the table called the initial cost proposal. So Blois Construction submitted an initial cost proposal of $874,121. We look at that price and we say, hey, let's your price is high. Let's get together, and we wanted to see where you come from, how you come up with your approach, and we wanted to work with you to develop a win-win solution. So none of us expected this change at the beginning of construction, but it's here now. We all have to deal with it. So let's make the most out of it, and let's work together. So we conducted at least 4 meetings with this. The first thing is to determine what is the easiest construction route. Digging a trench, because contractor has their own approach, we have our own approach. Let's marry them together to find a win-win solution. So what we did was actually walk the site. We walked the site and using what the initial figures that we have to them, and they have their comment to say, hey, if you adjust it to a certain alignment here, we could do it and we could be very efficient. So we did that. Upon walking the site, we reissue the drawings to them to say, here's what we agree on while we walk the site. So that's dropped the price. That's one. The second thing that we focus on is how you're going to dig the trench. It's, about plus or minus 3 feet deep, and there's a conduit inside. And what is the most efficient way? So their initial cost proposal is they were going to use a backhoe to do it. And we said, well, there are other more efficient equipment that if you can work it in like the trencher, because you don't have to be very wide, but you could be getting in and out of there, going through, certain bends in a more efficient way. So after a few back and forth, they say, yeah, they agree that that's a good approach. And plus, if you rent those equipment and stuff, it's going to be a lot cheaper than a backhoe. So that dropped the price. So the third thing that we worked on is we say, hey, look, this is a change order. Nobody wanted it, but you should be able to honor, because they're the lowest bid contractor for this project, all the labor rates should remain the same. You should give us that, and that also meet the California prevailing wage requirement. So we talk with those a little bit back and forth, and subsequently they agree, let's do it. And then the last one is the fiber. This one, they had a harder time to find, in a short time period, find the right fiber cable material. So we helped them out. We gave them, a few supplier to contact to, and subsequently that also dropped the price, the cost. So a combining effort from the initial cost to the final proposal from them is $531,213. So it drops because we work together we met often, wanted to do this work, but find the best cost to do it. And we also work with them on the time extension, the impact of that. They indicated that they can start this project, not have to wait till the end, but start it sometime, if the change order is approved tonight, they can start it sometime in November, and that will minimize the impact to extend the schedule, but they still will have an impact. The impact would be 40 days. Next slide, please. So the next item is the asbestos sampling. For this one, the contractor earlier told us, knowing that after hearing from DWI, he said, I'm not going to wait for you to do the change order because of the schedule impact. They have to build the structures. They have to cut the concrete. So they went upon themselves to basically went ahead and do the work. So all this here is strictly actual invoices for them to hire a specialized firm to test the concrete. And a total of 3 samples were taken. Fortunately, none were detected. There's no asbestos, but it did impact the project critical path. Once they took the sample, they have to send it out, and they can't, break those existing liner until the test result is negative and subsequently got okay from DWR to proceed with the work. So that's item number 2. Item number 3 is the additional low-strength concrete encasement on the 84-inch pipe. For this one, it looks like the pipes has changed a lot, but it's not. This is why we have check and balances. The contractor estimator submitted a quantity. We looked at it. We say, hey, your quantity is wrong. It's because we only want you to consider the top 1 foot of the pipe. The rest of them, it's in your contract. They looked at it to say, yeah. That was an honest bust from them. And we didn't spend a lot of time of it. That prices dropped immediately with the right square footage. Next slide, please. So in summary, the 3 items, the fiber optic communication cable, the cost is $531,213 with a construction time extension of 40 days. The asbestos sampling cost is $1,921 with the construction time extensions of 3 days. The additional low-strength concrete encasement for the 84-inch pipe, the cost is $8,202 with no time extension because it's not on the critical path. So the total cost of this change order is $541,336. We took this item to the High Desert Water Bank committee, and we received approval from the committee to be on tonight's agenda for the Avek board to entertain this item. So, Justin, that concludes my presentation for this item tonight.
Thank you, Tien. Good job. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that we might have from our board members tonight.
This is Shelley. I'd just like to make a comment that Metropolitan knows about this change. And would you like to elaborate on that, your communication with them?
Yeah, definitely. A few slides back, we had this table here. When we first learned about this, our engineering team did a very high level cost impact of this and came up with a very high level estimate of about $600,000 to cover the cost of this work. We communicated that immediately to Metropolitan Water District, and they're working with their internal staff and providing their board and committee members with an update on the overall project budget. This was included within that last update to Metropolitan Water District. So they were aware of that and included the $621,000 shown on this table in their recent discussions with their staff management. And ultimately the final cost proposal came in less than that, which is good. But they were prepared for that a little bit higher number on there. But they're fully aware. We have regular conversations with Metropolitan staff on the ongoing project.
Are you going to let them know that that number has actually been reduced by a substantial amount?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good comment, Shelley. Are there any more questions or discussion?
This is Director Sorsable. I'll move to approve agenda item 8B1.
Thank you.
This is Director Donato. I'll second it.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or discussion? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes.
Okay. That brings us to item, let's see here, 8B2, consideration and possible action on no-cost amendments to extend Stanix engineering design and hydrology professional service agreement through June 30th of 26. Again, our in-house engineer will go ahead and bring us up to date on that.
Thank you, Director Donato. So a little bit of background. Stantec is serving as the engineer for the High Desert Water Bank project. Avek entered into the original contract with Stantec on March 5th, 2020, which included several of the engineering services that have been completed so far, including the first 4 pilot recovery wells, surveying, geotechnical investigations, the groundwater modeling, and the current contracts, which are under construction, including the recharge basins and pipelines and the turnout, turn-in structure. Those were initially part of their contract with a completion date of January 31st, 2023. Since that time, there have been additional amendments added to Stantec's contract for additional scope and fee, including the recently awarded 3 well drilling packages that are currently under design, as well as the well equipping and electrical that Stantec is currently working on, which both of those were added to Stantec's contract a few meetings back. With those added to their design services, no additional schedule was added with those amendments, but the current project schedule shows completion of those design tasks for early 2024, and then construction of those packages through early 2026. And as we're doing with our current construction packages, we're keeping the design engineer on under contract with those packages to help answer contractor questions and approve the materials the contractor is submitting to use on those construction projects, so that Stantec can make sure that those materials match the design intent and the drawings that the contractor bid on. So with the anticipation that we'll continue to utilize that support through the end of construction, staff is recommending that we extend Stantec's design services contract through through June 30th of 2026, and just allows a little bit of float at the end should that schedule slip at all. And then one thing to note, the Stantec's current contract includes a maximum escalator on their rates of no more than 3% per year. And this extension would preserve that maximum percentage per year increase going forward. And so that's about it. So we'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Director Lane just had a comment to the board. In seeing that, I had an initial, concern. This is something we've never done in the past, to my knowledge. We've never extended had any contract for 4 years. And I think it's something we need to watch in the future. And I don't see it serves the agency. Because through the years we have had disagreements with the engineers, but talking to staff and talking to Matt in particular, he did say that this contract could be canceled, I think, with 30 days without cost. And so under those circumstances, it's probably acceptable. But I'm just not sure if it, in the future, if this is going to serve the agency well or not. But at least we do have the cancellations, which is great.
Matt, is that without cause or with cause?
Yeah, without cause.
Without cause. That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, this is Tilden Kim. So I was asked to review the contract, and Section 10 of the contract has a fairly standard termination provision where the owner, Avek, does have the option to terminate without cause, but has to give at least 30 days notice, prior notice, and there's some payment obligations and requirements that flow from such exercise of termination. So we did take a look at the contract, and we did review the termination provision and the ability for Avek, if necessary, to exercise termination rights prior to the expiration of the contract.
Again, Director Lane, and usually a lot of these relationships are with the people we're dealing, with, and even though this is a contract for the company, if you have personnel change, it may not be the same, and so it's most important is relationship with people that we're on a day-to-day contact with, and so. But anyway, I think it's it's probably doable, but since we have that clause to cancel, but without that, I think we wouldn't have been best for the agency.
This is Director Sorsable. I'll go ahead and move to approve agenda item 8B2.
This is Director
Lane.
Director Lane, do you second the motion?
Yeah, Director Lane, I seconded the motion.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
yes.
Robert Harris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the High Desert Water Bank Committee.
Thank you, Director Donato. Item 8, General Manager's Report. Matt, will you be giving that tonight?
Yes, thank you, Director Dias. Wayne Chisholm is on the line tonight, but he's feeling under the weather, so I'm going to go ahead and cover the GM report this evening. So, some good news with State Water Project weather and even local weather. As you know, we're getting a little precipitation throughout the state, and the Feather River region that we typically report on for the State Water Project is getting significant rainfall and snow pack up there. So that's good news, off to a good start for the water year. That weather is going to begin clearing on Thursday of this week, and temperatures will warm up a little bit. As you can see, the freezing levels are going to increase from the low of 2,000 feet in that area up to 7,000 feet over the next week or so. But overall, good news for early November. Here you can see we're off to a slow start in October. The blue dark dash lines are the average for each of the months throughout the water year. And you can see we didn't get anything in October, which was the beginning of the water year. But up north in the Sierra 8 Station Index region, as of this morning, we got 2.7 inches of precipitation up there. So we check that on a daily basis, and we anticipate that's going to go up tomorrow morning based on the weather today. So pretty good news. Hopefully it continues. On AVAC's operation locally, we're currently at 65% of our groundwater banking recovery capacity. Most of that is being pumped from the West Side Water Bank and delivered through 80th and H, as well as sending some of that to the north through the north feeder system. LA County Waterworks is all scheduled to come in for a tour of the agency's facilities tomorrow. We're going to tour the Courtsdale Water Treatment Plant, the West Side Water Bank, and if time and weather permits, we're going to run out to High Desert Water Bank where they can see the construction of the new turnout for that project. So we got a pretty full day with the county coming in for a tour, and there's about 25 individuals, a mix of management staff and operators and engineers from the county. So that'll be good.
Is that tour? Is that going to be local or people from LA?
It's a mix. We got some local folks, but probably most of them are coming from Alhambra. We are scheduled for annual maintenance and shutdown of the Courtsdale Water Treatment Plant early part of January. And John Bozigan is doing a great job of communicating that to the affected customers to make sure that they plan their water supply on their side during that shutdown. Also, a little later, after we get through with the Courtsdale Water Treatment Plant shutdown in early January, mid to late January, we're going to shut down the north feeder and make a repair of a 30-inch pipeline that experienced a pretty significant leak last year. We did a Band-Aid during last year's shutdown and got all the correct material ordered, and we're scheduled for that permanent fix in mid to late January. Again, John is doing a great job of communicating to the affected customers, primarily the Edwards Air Force Base. They're probably the biggest demand on that system. So here's a snapshot of where we're flowing water from the various AVAC facilities. You can see on the top chart, very limited flows from the conventional water treatment plants and through the Acton Palmdale Water District exchange or intertie. Total of about 8 million gallons per day. And then down below that, you can see what's being pumped from the various groundwater basins and recovery wells. A total of about 17.8 million gallons per day on average from those facilities. And then obviously with the State Water Project situation, we are not currently doing any recharge at any of our facilities. Hopefully that will change in 2023. So this is some information that question came up at the Finance Committee last week. We had a check on the check registry where we're paying our annual dues to Aqua. So the committee asked some good questions about the benefits to AVAC as part of that membership to Aqua. So we stole this from the Aqua website. The light blue section lists kind of high-level benefits to the agency with that membership. Of course, we get advocacy. We get reduced rates through conferences that they offer both in the spring and the fall. Various newsletters that Aqua puts out on a monthly basis. And then probably the biggest benefit to the agency is participation in Aqua JPIA's benefit and insurance programs, item number 11. Down below, you can see the 5 or so major programs that AVAC participates in through Aqua JPIA. And as you know, this is a large pool of California water agencies where we get reduced rates as being part of that pool system. So the big one is our property insurance, auto insurance, and general liability insurance. We also obtain our workers' comp insurance as well as the employee medical, vision, and dental plans through Aqua JPIA. So overall, very good service that Aqua provides to public California water agencies. And thank you to the Finance Committee for bringing this up and just reminding the full board as to what the benefits of Aqua are. And lastly, we have some upcoming events. Obviously, Election Day. Hopefully, everybody voted. Friday is Veterans Day holiday. That is a agency holiday, so probably have limited staff here in the office on Friday. Couple of directors and myself are scheduled to go to the Kern County Energy Summit next Wednesday up in Bakersfield. Just a note that the Water Master meeting isn't going to be on its regular date in November. There is no November Water Master meeting date, so that will be a special meeting on December 7th at 10 a.m. And then, of course, we have Thanksgiving holiday later this month. Staff will be out of the office on Thursday and Friday. And that's all I have to report unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Matt? If not, thank you very much. Good report.
Yep. Thank you.
Item 9, are there any directors' reports? Item 10, do we have an attorney's report tonight, Tilden?
Nothing to report, President Dias.
Okay. Are there any requests for future agenda items under item 11? If not, we'll move along to item 12. There's no old business, so we'll discuss item 13, closed session. Matt, is there a reason to go into closed session tonight?
Yes, for item 13C.
All right. Do I have a motion to go into closed session for item 13C?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we go into closed session on item 13C.
Thank you.
This is Director Miller. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Harris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. So we will be going into closed session now for item 13C as soon as Holly can make that happen.
Thank you. Please stand.